So hello and welcome to the video. I recently spent 7 nights aboard the P&O Azura sailing around the Canary Islands. I had a great time, although I felt that P&O had done a series of things to tighten their belts which diminished the customer experience to some degree. I talked about that in some detail in this video. Despite this stinginess, I could still see a number of ways in which P&O was clearly different from their competition. P&O is generally regarded as being in competition with Royal Caribbean, with MSC, with Norwegian, and having kept a close eye on pricing over the last few months, I'd say that that's probably true. P&O is owned by Carnival Corporation, and whilst I might have added the Carnival brand to that list, as they are sister companies, they probably don't compete that much, and it may very well be the reason why the Carnival Cruise brand has a relatively low profile in the United Kingdom. So in this video I'll attempt to summarise what I think are the 6 main differentiators between P&O and their competition. So if that sounds interesting, stick around! Hi, I'm Matt and I love cruising. I love the ships, the places you visit, the entertainment, and every now and again I'll also enjoy a drink. So subscribe and you might pick up some hacks, hints and tips to make your next cruise better. So the first differentiator is made clear by the socking great Union Jack that all P&O ships have painted to their bows. P&O is British. It's very, very British. The captains, I believe, are all British. Many of the senior staff were British. Almost all of the entertainment crew was British, and the currency used aboard is the British pound. Every cabin had tea and coffee making facilities, which is an extremely British thing. The ships are all built in Britain. Oh, no, wait, they're actually built in Germany or Italy. But some of them are registered in Britain. The older ones are registered in Hamilton, Bermuda, but the very newest ones are actually registered in Britain. So what does this mean? Well, if you are British, things will be very familiar. The accents, the spelling, the extreme orderliness of any queue you might encounter when on board. The food will be familiar, spotted dicks and sponge puddings abound. The drinks will be familiar, even if there is a whiff of the Wetherspoons about some of the beers on offer. Not that that's a bad thing. Most of the passengers aboard were British. I'd estimate 99% on my recent cruise. But I wouldn't be scared of booking a P&O cruise if you're not British. Taking a cruise which isn't as American as the other English-speaking cruise brands offer might make a refreshing change. Another huge benefit of this, in my British opinion, is that there is a greatly reduced focus on tipping. Gratuities are included in the fare price that you pay, but there's none of those awkward envelopes lying around at the end of the cruise, which us Brits find very difficult to cope with. You can still tip, but it wasn't really a thing, certainly not on the cruise that I was on. I did, though, experience consistently poor service. I'm sure these two things aren't in any way related. On to point 2, which is a consequence of point 1, or actually perhaps it's not. P&O is quite formal, not as formal as their sister brand Cunard, but more formal than those other brands. There's a dress code for dinner every evening, and most evenings that's described as evening casual, the sort of thing you'd wear to a nice restaurant. This is very much in line with the other brands, although I did see far more jackets on display on P&O than I think I have in previous experiences. Formal nights, though, are a different story. We had 2 of them on our 7-night cruise, and on these nights, black tie was the dress code. Smart, dark suits with a tie seemed to be acceptable, but most people did seem to make the effort to wear a smart dinner jacket or a tuxedo. Is there a difference? I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments if there is. And of course, as there always is, there was the occasional kilt. This was actually the deputy captain. Unlike those other cruise lines though, some venues aboard were reserved solely for those participating in the dressing up. This may be quite annoying if you're not interested in participating. One last thing to note, formal dancing was offered every night, with dance lessons being offered every day. Indeed, the dance instructors seemed to be some of the hardest working people on the ship because they were on the go for hours on end. Great if you like that sort of thing, but not something you really see on those other brands. So P&O is formal, but that doesn't mean that they're expensive. They are competing with those other more moderately priced cruise lines, and if you hit a promotion or they're trying to fill a ship quite close to departure, then you can actually find exceptional good value on P&O. Point 3 might be a bit of a minor thing, but it did annoy me and it might confuse you if you are new to P&O. The titles they use for certain key roles are a bit confusing. The captain was still the captain, but as a British company they disliked using the title director. So they didn't have a cruise director. About 5 days through the cruise, when I couldn't work out who the cruise director was, I actually asked someone. And I was told the person performing that role on P&O is known as the entertainment manager. But after 7 days on the cruise, I still had no idea who the entertainment manager was. They'd done an extremely poor job of making themselves known. Researching this video, I did see some suggestion online that P&O has downscaled the role of cruise director on their cruise ships. So my expectations may be out of line with what P&O is now offering. But even so, it was quite disappointing because I like to develop some sort of relationship with the entertainment team leader. I really like cruise directors. They do a very, very difficult job, and some of them are actually quite remarkable individuals. And I missed having that experience aboard P&O. Probably as a consequence of this, the job of comparing the various shows was spread around the entertainment team. Even the public announcements seemed to be spread around. Quite a lot of them were done by the hotel director, but that person wasn't allowed to use the D word in their title either, so they were known as the hotel manager. So it was all a bit odd. It's probably not something that's going to impact upon your decision whether to cruise with P&O or not, but if you do cruise with them for the first time, it's something to be aware of. Point 4 concerns drinks and drink packages. I don't think buying a drinks package is as usual a thing on P&O as it is on some of those other lines. A couple of consequences flow from this. The first is that drinks seemed to be very reasonably priced aboard. A pint of beer could be had for about £5, a gin and tonic for about £6, and cocktails could be had for less than £7. Which is ridiculously high if you live in Thailand or Brazil, but it's a lot less than other cruise lines, and it's a lot less than you'd probably pay in any London pub these days. I have a cruise coming up on the MSC Virtuosa where a pint costs about £9, a gin and tonic is pretty much the same, and cocktails can be well into double figures. Now, I've suggested previously that drinks pricing on ships may be inflated to make the drinks package look like better value, which drives the purchases of those packages, which ends up being more profitable for the cruise line at the end of the day. I don't think this is happening on P&O, which means that if you're a casual drinker who's never going to be interested in buying a drinks package, P&O could be a really good option for you, as buying a drink occasionally isn't going to cost you that much. The other consequence is that if being on holiday turns you into more than a casual drinker, the P&O drinks package might actually look like really strong value. It costs only £39 a day compared to £66 a day on MSC. But the P&O drinks package is quite stingy, certainly compared to MSC. Measures on P&O are 25 millilitres each compared to MSC's 40 millilitres, 70% more, which coincidentally is in line with the difference in price. I'd noticed before boarding that P&O's menus suggested that a double measure of some spirits could be had for within the £6.95 drinks limit, certainly if you took it without a mixer. But I hadn't noticed that the small print limits drinks served to only a single measure. So even though you could afford a double shot, they wouldn't serve it to you. And the cocktails were good, but boy, were they small. Another detail is that some cruise lines allow you to pay the difference if you order a drink that costs more than the limit of your drinks package. P&O doesn't allow this. If the drink costs more than your entitlement, you have to pay for the whole thing. You are allowed 15 drinks a day, but as each of them are going to be single measures, you're going to get a lot less out of a P&O package than you would anyone else's. Which I guess reflects the difference in the pricing. I would certainly never condone excessive alcohol consumption in any environment, but some people may well find this limit, well, limiting. Your consumption is also throttled to 1 drink every 15 minutes, which may just not be enough for those for whom partying is a big deal on a cruise. Point 5 concerns P&O's style. Is it targeting families? Is it targeting older people? Is it targeting singles? Is it targeting couples? Well, the answer to that question is probably all of the above, which means that the offering isn't really customised for any of those groups. The ships aren't stuffed with arcades and headline attractions for youngsters. On the Azura there was a kids club and there certainly were a number of kids on board, but P&O doesn't seem to be targeting families in the same way that Royal Caribbean and Norwegian are. I will note that the 2 oldest ships in the P&O fleet are now being marketed as adults only. But the newer ships will welcome families even if they don't have the water parks or the go-kart tracks of some of the competitors. There are solo meetups, but they don't offer the same sort of solo cabin facilities that some cruise lines such as Norwegian offer. There's a lot of ballroom dancing offered, which you might take as a sign that the entertainment offering is designed for older people. But there was plenty of other entertainment offered which appeals to younger age groups. So it's hard to pigeonhole P&O's offering as being targeted to any particular market, which I think many people will consider to be a good thing. For others, their attempts to appeal to all markets might feel a little unsatisfactory if you're used to a more targeted offering. Another way that P&O seems to be trying to cover all of their bases is to do with how they seat people for dinner. Brands tend to try to stream their passengers into 2 fixed sittings like MSC, or to allow a more freestyle approach where you eat whenever you want, which is very Norwegian. P&O seemed happy to offer both. One dining room was set up to offer 2 fixed time seatings. The other 2 dining rooms allowed you to arrive to eat whenever you want. And if you picked the latter, your group could then choose whether to be seated with other groups for dinner or whether to get a table just for your group. You often had a little bit of a wait to get a dedicated table, but it was an available option. I really liked this option as it meant everyone could basically have their preferred dining option, no wait lists and no being forced to eat at a time that you might not actually be comfortable with. And the final point I want to make is that P&O is actually quite a small cruise line. Their strong brand recognition, certainly in the UK, may lead you to believe that they're bigger than they actually are. Wikipedia reckons they're the 13th biggest cruise line in the world based on passengers carried, 1/10 the size of Royal Caribbean or Carnival, and smaller than Disney or even TUI Cruises. Their 7th ship recently joined their fleet. They predominantly sail from the UK but also operate within the Caribbean and the Mediterranean, so if you're most familiar with cruising in those regions, you'll probably have a strong brand awareness. And given their Britishness, they're going to be very well known in the British market. But they're really not that big. So there you go, 6 ways that I think P&O is different from their competition. Do you agree? Have you sailed with P&O? Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it. It helps YouTube know whether the video is worth promoting to others. Please subscribe if you're new, and if you'd like to support what I'm doing more directly, there is a Patreon account, the link to which is in the description below. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.